The topic that we will be explaining is the self from various perspectives of psychology. But before that, this video is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardenez, to use this an educational material.
The goal of scientific field of psychology is to understand the complexities of the human mind and behavior. Through studying social dynamics and the complexities of emotion and cognition, psychology offers a focal point through we can see the world ourselves more clearly.
What is psychology? Psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. Psychologists are also actively involved in studying and understanding human mental processes, their brain functions, and their behavior. In my understanding, psychology delves into the intricacies of human behavior, emotions, and thoughts. It explores how individuals perceive the world, interact with others, and adapt to various situations. Psychology not only investigates mental processes but also considers environmental, social, and biological factors that influence behavior. It aims to uncover the underlying mechanisms behind human actions and experience, offering insights into personality, cognition, motivation, and mental health. Psychology is both a science and a practice, offering valuable tools for understanding ourselves and others, promoting well-being, and fostering personal growth and development.
The self, according to psychology, totally of the individual consisting of all characteristic, attributes, conscious and unconscious, mental and physical. Apart from its basic reference to personal identity, being an experience, the term used in psychology is wide-ranging according to William James. Self can refer either to the person as the target of appraisal. One introspectively evaluates how one is doing, or the person as the source of agency. One attributes the source of regulation of perception, though the behavior to one's body or mind. Carl Jung maintained that the self gradually develops by a process of individuation which is not complete until late maturity is reached. Alfred Adler identified the self with the individual's lifestyle, the manner in which they seek fulfillment. Karin de Horney held that one's real self, as opposed to one's ideal self-image, consists of one's unique capacities for growth and development. Gordon Allport substituted the word proprium for self and conceived of it as the essence of individual, consisting of a gradually developing body sense, identify, self-estimate, and the set of personal values, attitudes, and intentions. Austrian-born U.S. psychoanalyst Heinz Kohut, 1913-1981, used the term to denote the sense of a coherent, stable, yet dynamic experience of one's individuality, continuity in time and space, autonomy, efficacy, motivation, values, and desires. He believed that this sense emerged through healthy narcissistic development, emphatically supported by the significant figures in one's early life, and that conversely narcissistic developmental failures leads to a fragile or incoherent sense of self. See self-psychology. See also false self. multiple selves, phenomenal selves, sense of self, and true self.
Now, me-self and I-self. Me-self refers to the self-concept of self-image, how an individual perceives themselves in terms of traits, characteristics, and roles. On the other hand, I-self refers to the subjective experience of oneself as an active agent, the inner sense of being and personal identity. Together, these aspects contribute to a person's overall sense of self, influencing thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Understanding the interplay between me-self and I-self is essential in comprehending the complexities of the self-perception and identity. Now, there are examples of myself and I-self. Myself, trait description, roles and identities. Now, trait description, seeing oneself as kind, outgoing, or introverted represents aspect of the me-self, characteristic that describe who you believe you are. Now, role and identities. Viewing oneself as a student, a parent, or a friend contributes to the myself by defining roles and social identities. Now, I-self examples: subjective experience and decision making. Subjective experience, feeling emotions such as happiness, sadness, or excitement reflects the I-self, the internal subjective experience of being. Now, decision making. Making choices and decisions based on personal preferences and values showcase the I-self as the active agent in one's life.
Real self versus ideal self. Real self, this is the person's actual, current understanding and perceptions of themselves. It reflects how an individual sees themselves in terms of attributes, abilities, and behaviors, based on their experience and self-awareness. Number two is ideal self. This represents the person's aspirations and goals for who they want would like to be. It involves the individual's version of their best or most desired self, often influenced by social expectations, personal aspirations, and cultural norms. Two example of real and ideal self. The first one is real self. Number one example of real self is self-perception. Acknowledging and accepting the one's actual traits, abilities, and behaviors, such, such, such as being honest or having a talent for art, reflects the real self. Number two is self-evaluation. Realizing personal strengths and weaknesses based on objective self assessment contributes to the development of the real self. The next is ideal self. There are two also examples. Number one is aspirations. Setting goals to become more compassionate or successful represents aspects of the ideal self. The person's one invention becoming. Number two is role models. Admiring and inspiring to emulate qualities of admired individuals can shape one's ideal self by incorporating the shared characteristic. That's the example of real versus.
Next is multiple versus unified self. So first is the multiple self. This perspective suggests that the self is not a singular, unified entity but rather consists of various selves or identities. So different rules, context, and relationship may activate different aspects of the self, leading to a more fragmented or multifaceted self-concept. Next is the unified self. This viewpoint posits that the self is a cohesive and integrated entity. It emphasizes continuity across various life situations and experiences, suggesting that there is a consistent and unified sense of identity that persists over time. So the example of multiple self, there's two. First is professional self. So the way an individual behaves and thinks in a professional setting may differ from how they behave in personal relationships, showcasing the presence of multiple selves. Second is cultural identity. Individuals may navigate and express different aspects of their identity based on their cultural background, highlighting the existence of multiple selves within diverse contexts. And lastly, the unified self examples. First is the consistent values. So when an individual's values and principles remain relatively stable across various life situations, so it supports the notion of a unified self. And next is emotional consistency. Maintaining a consistent emotional response and demeanor across different contexts suggests a more unified sense of self.
So, good evening, everyone. I'm going to tackle about the topic true versus false self. The first one is true self. This refers to the authentic and genuine aspects of an individual personality, reflecting their feelings, desire, and motivation. The true self is considered the core, unaffected by external influence, expectation. And the other one is false self. This is a person that individuals may develop as a defense mechanism against external pressure or norms. This false self often involves presenting a version of oneself that aligns with expectation but may not fully represent the person's genuine feeling and desire. This is the example for the true self. Authentic emotion expressing genuine emotions such as joy or sadness without conforming to the societal expectation reflect aspects of the true self. Innate passion, pursuing activities and interests that aligns with one's passion and personal preferences rather than doing things solely for external approval. Example for the false self, confirming behaviors. Adapting one's behavior to meet societal expectation or norms, even if it contradicts personal feelings, may involve the development of a false self, people pleasing, pretending to agree with others, or suppressing one's opinion to avoid conflict, and can be in the activate of a false self constructed to the external explanation. And that's all. Thank you.
The self as proactive and agentic. Proactive self. This perspective suggests that individuals take initiative and engage in purposeful actions to achieve their goals. Proactivity involves the anticipating and actively managing situations, rather than simply reacting to them. Agentic self. The agentic self concept aligns with the idea of personal agency, which refer to the capacity to act independently and make choices that have an impact on one's life. This perspective emphasizes the individual's role as an agent, capable of directing their actions toward desired outcomes. Example of proactive self. Work initiative. Taking the initiative to propose new ideas, improvements, or products at work without being prompted. Health maintenance. Adopting a proactive approach to health by exercising regularly, eating nutritiously, and getting regular checkups. Time management. Planning and organizing tasks in advance to avoid last-minute stress and enhance productivity. Example of agentic self. Career decision making. Making independent decisions about one's career path, considering personal goals, values, and aspirations. Educational choices. Choosing a course of study based on personal interests and career aspirations rather than external expectations.